he was never going to get him more online with his teaching. Jung was sucking up whatever he could to go on with what he knew, to be his own consultant. It's just he had to learn from the best, or from who was there. BIC, his motivation, Jung was motivated by his motivation conjunct Pluto. He has to face the deep fears within, and squared by Saturn. He has the fears of father, fears of growing up, fears there's having motivated by fear. And it's in Taurus, so fear of being loved, fear of being appreciated, fear of not having money, fear of not being secure, fear of not being appreciated, and the need to get appreciated. So as soon as he got his degree, he got married a well-off woman. He was thinking he was secure. That was there. Freud, his IC's in Aquarius. He's motivated by knowledge. It squares his Sun and his Uranus, but so it's not stable. But he was motivated by knowing things, by getting education, by getting the factual information out, getting knowledge out. Whereas Freud was not totally, Jung was not totally motivated by knowledge, and more by appreciation and fear and having to overcome blocks. So he was the perfect client for Freud, and he grew through it. As in that, you might say a teacher grows beyond the student grows beyond the teacher, or he just went his own way eventually. But started from that to begin with. Now, when he put his motivation into Freud's chart, it conjuncted the Mercury. The IC conjuncted the Mercury of Freud's chart. His motivation was affected. He was motivated, and how he's motivated affected the thinking of Freud. So he influenced Freud, but it wasn't he went a different way, and Freud just at some point broke away from it. Freud's motivation and knowledge and motivating things, although in someone is secure in himself, it kept him motivated to express it better. When he put it into, it opposed his IC in Jung's chart. His motivation opposed to Saturn. It conjuncted Uranus. It triggered off some new ideas and breakthroughs, but it squared Pluto, squared the moon. So there's a lot of, his motivation was lit up but did not stabilize Jung. Jung's motivation was confronting that, but it stimulated the thinking of Freud. Okay, so then their identities, the projection, the personal projection. Jung's identity had the Sun opposed the Sun and squared Neptune. So my relation, who I am, what I know, what my status is, what my relationship is, Sun in the seventh, my confidence, as opposing I'm in this relationship. I have a confusing setup, squared by Neptune. I'm not exactly reliable, but I'm wanting respect to my identity for my books. So he tried to keep his work and his books separate, but they were interwoven. So he had some guilt problems to his identity. Freud had Scorpio rising opposed Pluto. So he had confrontational, he had fears and confrontations about his identity, about his judgment, about his intensity. Really, really different. And so Jung's evasiveness went in, it squared Freud's Venus. He wouldn't have liked it. It confronted him. He would confront it squared to Pluto. That's not real. Squared the ascendant. So it came in stressfully into Freud's, what affects Freud stressfully. I get that response. But Freud's confrontational identity, over control of his identity, or fear of being out of control or being controlled, it opposed Jung's moon, squared his Sun, it was squared by Uranus's identity. His identity was totally not received, or from Jung's side was really unstable, and he was not relating to that Scorpio judgment at all. So he took it, he listened, he took it, but then he wasn't in the same place. In terms of status and career, look at the midheaven. Freud's midheaven was square the Sun and square the midheaven. So there's disruptions to his confidence where he did what he had to do. He had to go here, had to go there. And he was always struggling because he had his health problems and things with his mouth and his speaking. He was always struggling with that to make the proper appearance within the establishment. Okay, but it wasn't Leo. He was proud of what he was doing and where he was the teacher. He was showing people how to do it, and he has fixed pride around stuff. His it was consistently challenged his self-esteem and being radical around it. But his status went, okay. Freud's young status was in Scorpio. He was competitive to have to prove he could do things. It was opposing his Pluto. He had a fear he had to overcome. I have to take these steps and put it out there. I have to make these, I have to get this things, I have to express this thing, I have to write these books, I have to put this, I have to get this through. So he had blocks to overcome. And he had the Scorpio, and this was around career and status. When he put it into Freud, it opposed his Mercury. So his sense of career opposed the thinking of Freud. Whereas Freud has been having conjuncted the Saturn of, conjuncted the ambitious side, or the Saturn of Jung, but it was still unstable and squaring the moon and not being received that well. And each one, the relation, so going down to the last one, descendant, the relationship, how they respond to others. Freud's descendant conjuncted his sun. So did Jung's. I don't know why it's not here. Oh, they both have that, conjuncted the sun. And one was in Taurus, one was in Leo. So the descending conjuncted the sun, his confidence comes in being able to respond properly to other people and see what they want. The Venus, the Taurus, and know how to be paid well for it. Leo, I've got to be the best. I got to shine. People got to really like me. And I'm going to be seen as the best in terms of responding to people. They're going to think I'm the best. And but yeah, no bad aspects to it. So that was both their incentive about consulting, and they were being responsive, getting other people. They were attracting rich clients and famous clients and people coming to them. They were attracting poor clients. This was already in an upper class scenario. But Freud's sense of response, it squared Venus and Pluto. So in Freud, so his Jung's attitude of being the best threatened the values, and it was threatening the values in the relationship to Freud. Of course it would. He didn't have the same standard around relationships. He didn't always necessarily practice what he preached. He had a different way of approach, more evasive, more inclusive. You might say more compassionate, more understanding, because he had his own guilts and would include that. Where Freud, the guilt weren't about relationships. He had a strength around it, but when he put his Taurian way, his practical way to affect into Jung's chart, it opposed the moon, it squared the sun, squares Uranus. So there was already an antipathy. So there was antipathy between the two of them throughout their whole chart, which Freud more or less was evasive around and played around and put on the side and kept his own thing going. Jung did, and Freud was being consistent around it, but didn't and was probably expecting more of Jung than he got. Jung was a student fellow; he didn't fall all the way through it, and that's kind of how it looks like from this. So this is as far as we're going to get today. Anyways, it's just. This is the structure of the way to go. You slow it down, you take your time. You do this in 2 or 3 days if you have to, it's better. Okay, but I wanted you to see the structure of the charts and relating it. You can relate, it's not just about sex and relationships, although their understanding of sex and relationships was about their relationship too. But you can take it for people working together, people in a band together, family members together, friends, enemies. You can begin to start to see where the trigger spots are, how it works. Okay, now this is the end of our level 8 classes. I love this level because it's so expansive. You get into all these cosmic things and philosophical things, so many vast expansions to what we already knew. And now, what do we do with it? Well, really, it was all in preparation for where we're about to go. We're just about to start, but we're starting progressions next week. And the last 2 weeks, 2 levels of this class to the end of the year will be on progressions. We really open up the more spiritual and mystical sides of astrology. We use a lot of this, where we can use a lot of this information that we've added in. So thank you. That's it for tonight. And I'll see you next week, and we'll start with progressions. Okay.